They never tell. They all do life. They all walk on nails with no shoes on. They have been, but they don't really tell. They don't come in and testify. They just give information, let's say, about people they don't like or people they're at war with. And it's one of the vagaries of being involved in these kinds of cases.
Sammy the Bull, all the motherfuckers was in there. I was in there with Sammy the Bull, White Boy Red.
How the fuck do you tell the motherfucker and go to jail? Like the motherfuckers who ratted on me. Them dumb bitches was sitting up in jail with me. What was the point of telling?
When I got there, White Boy Rick had signed me in, and next morning I met with him and told him the deal was. I said, man, did this, man. I knew what happened at the state prison. You thought I was coming in to hit you, which was true. But here, I'm not down like that no more. I'm just like you. I'm a snitch, a turncoat, a fink, or whatever people want to call me. But I call it getting back at the niggas that killed my brother.
Cereal, no milk. Dishes in a sink. Older brother running around getting money wearing minks. Won't buy nothing to eat. Always buy drinks. Get the whole house drunk. Then shit pop off. Mama boyfriend tripping about a dime got lost. Mine is lost. Smoke a blunt.
Detroit. Police there were called in to break up scuffles after tens of thousands of people turned out to apply for grants from the federal government for housing and utilities. As the desperate crowd got larger, some people fainted, others fought.
The city got enough federal money to help 3,500 families pay rent and utilities, but police say 35,000 showed up instead.
This is a travesty. I've never seen anything like this in my life.
And then tempers started to flare.
It's ridiculous. People falling out, fighting, this is crazy.
At least 5 people were hurt in scuffles. Some fainted. More than 100 police officers tried to calm an anxious crowd faced with too much desperation and too few resources.
I am Pastor Spencer T. Ellis. I pastor the church in the northwest side of Detroit in the Brightmoor community called Citadel of Praise. Brightmoor is a very impoverished neighborhood in the city of Detroit. Majority of the people in the city were employed by the automobile industry of one of the subsidiaries, and of course we began to experience these massive layoffs. So depression began to sink in. Anytime you have a person that's dealing with depression, the first thing they're looking for is a way out. First thing, how can I alleviate my pain, alleviate my fear? I got laid off. I don't know which way I'm going to go. Now, with the economy being so bad, we all feel like it's a dog-eat-dog world. You get yours, I get mine.
More than 20 years after the height of the drug era in Detroit, the city presents a bleak visage. The Big Three hangs on in a few scattered factories, and the streets that generated the hundreds of millions in drug money are shadows of their former selves. For the kids that grew up in the aftermath of YBI, best friends, and the rest, selling drugs has become just another low-wage job.
Man, I first started at 12, man. You know what I'm saying? I used to skip school, go sit up with them boys, them chamber boys. My auntie boyfriend was messing with them. I remember real vividly, man. I get up, boom, brush my teeth. I hit the door. My grandma think I'm going to school. I'm on my way to the Trizzy. Get to the spot, you know what I'm saying, lock the doors down. They drop the whoop off. Nothing but nickels in that mud so big where you could cut them boys in half, sell them for 20.
Money was just flowing everywhere when you're talking about crack cocaine. Money was just, it was just an easy way out. So now young people start looking at this and saying, instead of working at McDonald's making $4.50 an hour, hey, I can sell crack because crack is the biggest thing going. Cocaine is the biggest thing going.
It'll never be another YBI, it'll never be another BMF, it'll never be another nothing, man. All that shit is over with.
The streets is dead, man. These young motherfuckers out here ain't doing nothing, man. You know, we was cashing out for cars. Niggas riding in cars, they paying notes on, man.
It's fucked up out here now compared to the way it used to be.
Man, I helped tear this community up, so I helped try to put something back, man. In 2010, we got to keep going forward, man, take advantage of all our opportunities, man, to make this shit right.
They used to say it takes a village to raise the children. It ain't no village left to raise, you know what I'm saying? They done tore it all down.
So, of course, all of us at 12 and 13 and 14 years old, like, yeah, that's what I want to do. I want to drive a drop-top Benz. And I had a personal friend that actually somehow got caught up into that drug war, making simple runs for whoever he was making runs for, delivering drugs. And even to this day, we never know who did it, never found the guy, and we buried him at 14 years old, a great, wonderful young man. My friend was actually gunned down at 7 Mile in Greenfield, right behind the store. It's a CVS now. It used to be a gas station there.
I think it's unfair for the society to hold young people as if they are insane.
The drug economy is mainstream in this city. Young kids who are in the dope game are talked about almost like disease vectors. They're talked about almost like you hear people talking about rats. You know, what we need to do is clean our communities of this scourge. I'm Luke Bergman. I'm Director of Research at the City of Detroit Health Department. Most of what I'm involved in has to do in some form or fashion with substance abuse treatment and substance abuse prevention services. It's powerful to watch the impact that alcohol has on them, actually, because very few young black folks in Detroit do hard drugs. You know, the hardest of the hard living that they're doing, I think, is because they are drinking at insane levels, and I'm motivated by the fact that they are profoundly depressed. They sort of lose any sense of focus or purpose for the most part whatsoever. They're not engaged in any institution. They're not in high school, they're not in college, they're not employed. They've just become, you know, totally wayward.
Dr. Luke Bergman wrote the book Getting Ghost after working with young drug dealers in Detroit's juvenile detention facility.
That is a book that grew out of my PhD thesis that I wrote while I was at the University of Michigan, which was about the experiences of young African-American drug dealers working in Detroit. And I spent most of that time living on the west side of Detroit, just off of Linwood Avenue, in what's usually called the sort of Dexter-Linwood area. And I was living on a little street called Pingree. You know, it doesn't make sense to move around the Linwood-Dexter area if you don't understand that something catastrophic has happened there.
Rodney was the alias Bergman used for the young Detroiter from the Dexter-Collingwood area that he grew closest to.
And Rodney was kind of this extremely active, extremely charismatic, rowdy young kid. He was 17 at that time. You know, his reputation definitely preceded him, which is really saying something, because there's some crazy cats out on Dexter. I would drive them to schools in the morning. I would, tutor them in reading afterwards. And then they would be, chopping up rocks and selling on the front porch steps, after tutoring.
To change your attitude and to change your demeanor, I got to change your culture and change your environment. So just like in church, I can preach to a guy and we can shout and wave our hand and get happy. At the end of the day, guess where you go back? To the same place, and everybody in your community is doing the same thing. You call your boys up, guess where they going? They going to the strip club. They going to get high. They going to rob a liquor store.
The drug that was being sold the most was heroin in paper packs. Certainly it was the drug that was bringing in the most money. And then a lot of weed was being sold. You'd walk in the liquor store and the weed man would say trees when you walked in, etc. So it's just sort of like, like being offered a coupon when you're going shopping or something.
There's another way of life, and that's the challenge that we have. I don't know if I have the answer to that, because that's where it's going to take not only President Obama, but it's going to take everybody up under him to now, we got to change our neighborhood, because I can change you. But if I send you back, you're going to get the same dirt back on you after I cleaned you up.
And there was this Coney Island restaurant on one of the corners, turned into an absolutely blazing heroin spot, probably about $5,000 a day. The only confrontations I would see is when white people would park in the parking lot and try to come into the store, because there was a very clear but also kind of tacit understanding that if you were white and coming onto Dexter to buy dope, you could not get out of your car. You could see the sort of pleasure that young black drug dealers would have in, setting these sorts of rules and constraints on white people.
Man, we had neighborhood people, but our main clientele was the white people. They used to come down in the Shamrock cabs. East McNichols and Strasburg, by the time you get to Strasburg and Finley, you've been and bought everything from prostitution to penny candy, because we had a penny candy store right there on the corner. We were selling dope out of there. Yeah, man, the whole stroll did like $17,000 a day, man.
We say we love the city. We don't love the city. We love getting over, allowing the city to become a stepping stone to our success. Because of what we have experienced with political corruption, with a former mayor, former city council, all the staff that has just been indicted for various crimes, the morale in the city of Detroit is very low. Even as a pastor, when I'm approached by politicians, I don't know who to trust. This is not the first time we've been in a crisis. It will not be the last time. And those of us that endure and maintain our integrity through this, we're gonna make it.
Everyone is desperate. The people copping are desperate in those areas, and the people selling were desperate. When I would drive down the street, literally in waves, young people coming out of their houses and running down their porch steps, and they would just be woo 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 woo, you know, I mean, and waving stuff for me. You know, if they didn't have money from the drugs that they were selling, for the most part, on their front porch, they didn't have shit.
During the course of Bergman's research, Rodney was suspected in a homicide at the All-Star Strip Club on 8 Mile.
They had a contact in the police department who could get them the crime report for $2,400. So they got $2,400 together, drove it down. It was a sunny afternoon. Drove it down to Beaubien, and got this police report. And within a couple months, he had managed to make about $30,000 selling weed in Jackson, and retained a lawyer. As soon as he had retained this lawyer, he turned himself in and managed to beat the case in pretrial.
My entire body is covered with scars. My back is bullet holes running all through it. My legs, my thighs. I can't even walk properly without getting cold, my leg locking up on me. My arm is no good. AK-47 went in here and blew out all this. Boom, tore up. They had poles in it. My hand, my fingers, they don't even work. This hand is just here.
Man, fuck the game, man. That was some of the dumbest shit I could have ever got involved in. It's only so many turnouts. Death, penitentiary. You're gonna be on drugs like you're saying. I never thought I would use drugs.
The snowball effect of there not being a real economy in this city drives kids who are smart and who are leaders and who could have made something of themselves. And by the time they're 19 or 20, they've ruined their life. That's the overriding legacy of the drug culture in the city of Detroit, in my opinion.
Don't let them see you doing that. My brother seen me doing it, he wanted to do it, and he got killed. My nephew the same way.
Well, he at that point had been, was really extracting himself from the dope game and had bought a space in which he was building a car wash right on Dexter. He was wearing a Kevlar vest the whole time he was working on this space. One day, he finished work, took off his vest, hopped in his car, went up the street to CVS or something to get some beer. Somebody stepped out from a couple of buildings right around a Payless shoe store that used to be there and just filled his car up, you know, with the AK. You know, the corner where he had lived so much of his life, you know, that it also was the corner where he was killed, is, I think, powerful for anybody who knows him.
I'm just hoping that people would take heed and understand that they need to build Detroit, not tear it down anymore. It's been torn down enough from us. Don't follow in us fools' ways of the old time, because now this is new time. Build this city.
What happens when the American system breaks down, when the politicians and CEOs fail in their decision-making? It's called Detroit. And as the future rolls upon us, remember that Detroit was once the seat of the greatest economic engine the world has ever seen, and now it's just a memory.
Let me go back. In the 70s, they had a McDonald's restaurant, had a little spoon. It was a coffee stirrer, and it had a little indentation. It was a little minor plastic spoon. And it became so famous in Detroit, you could dip it into a heroin thing, and they would sell it grams of heroin, and they call it a McDonald's spoon. So, because of the notoriety that spoon was used in the drug trade, today McDonald's has changed that spoon to a flat spatula.
Because of Detroit.
Because of Detroit.